So ASA, it's a game we all know, and in my opinion it's probably not my preference compared to the base game, but I know a lot of you out there like it. Sadly, this isn't the video for you though, as I'm just going to go with 5 problems I have with ASA. In no particular order. The one at number 1 isn't necessarily more important than the one at number 5, just 5 talking points about what I think ASA possibly could have done better. So let's get into the first one, which is a little nag from me. And I don't know if you console players know as much about anti-aliasing as us PC players out there, but there are so many different types, from TAA to SMAA, and just the list goes on. I'm not even going to bother to read all of them out. Essentially, the anti-aliasing used on ASA is really not nice in my opinion. It's some form of TAA, and it just adds a sort of muddiness to the image. With frame generation and things like that and DLSS on, it doesn't help anymore, but still I think even with none of that on, the game's visual clarity isn't as it should be, at least on PC. I haven't had any console experience, so I can't say for you console players. In the trailers it looks all really nice, but when you're playing the game there's a lack of clarity around those edges, and it sort of looks a bit smudgy and a bit muddy. For reference, I am playing at 1440p and not playing at a low resolution. I've got an RTX 3090 in my hands, and I do play with frame generation and DLSS, but even when I turn them off, the issue is still there and still persisting. So, you know, I don't really know the reason behind it, but I do think if Wildcard integrated some better anti-aliasing, it may be better for the game. Next up, we have got ourselves the Pyroman, and I have big issues with this. Now, some people love the Pyroman, and for them, great, and I admit it is a great creature, or at least it looks to be a great creature. I refuse to use it, and I'm never going to use one because I'm completely against the fact that it is a paid creature. I already wasn't a fan of the Oasaur being locked behind Bob's Tall Tales, but at least you still got Bob's Tall Tales with it, so it was less of an issue in my opinion. But the Pyroman is just a creature just on its own, and that is all it is, and I'm just so sick of it, and it feels so sick to me that this actually happened, and it's probably the most controversial thing from my point of view that's happened in ASA's journey so far, to some extent, because it really has divided. I don't think there should be a creature that's just locked behind a paywall. It should all be behind skill, and not who has money in their pocket or who actually wants to shell out more money for a better creature, because after all, you're paying for the base game anyway. And Snail Games, although you know it's going under at this point, still wants as much money as possible from you, and it really doesn't sit right with me, and I don't think that the Pyroman was a good move at all for ASA, and it was one of the main reasons actually why I stopped playing, sort of out of protest on ASA, because it's just like, no, the Pyroman is just one step too far. I am not going to deal with that. Now, a lot of you may like it, and you are happy to agree or disagree with these issues that I am posing, because they may not be issues for you, they're just issues for me. As always, feel free just for a little bit of a debate and discussion, but do keep it generally concise and generally neutral. Express your opinion, but don't be mean or anything like that, because we don't want any of that in the comment section. We are a community after all, and we should all be respectful of each other's opinions. So continuing on, we have got map details. This is more prevalent on Scorched Earth, as a lot of the just general ruins on Scorched Earth have had a lot of lost detail, especially near that cave where you have to go into the church. If you compare them between ASA and ASE, there is a massive amount of detail lost, and although the maps do look detailed from the face of it, there is a lot that has been rushed and just skipped around, and it is a little bit of a shame in my opinion, but you know, that's just the way it is, I guess. But, you know, considering all of this, I do think a little bit of time could have been spent on these maps, a little bit more time, I should say, because time definitely has been spent and effort definitely has been put in. But I do think there's a very, very evident amount of rushing in this game. Still, with all the new maps coming out, Av does have a little bit of that as well, and Scorched Earth is just the one which I think is most notable, so that's why I put that here. Now, quite the controversial one is all the issues with Nitrado and you not being able to run your own servers and then you having to use their servers. This was a big issue for server runners, and although I'm not a server runner myself, this really did hit hard for me, as I was like, really? Is this what we're stooping down to? It just seemed like an all new low that hadn't been reached before, and it was like, how is this even just happening? And although the situation is getting there and is largely resolved to some extent, the damage has still been dealt and the trust in a lot of players has been lost. And it even got players like Neddy the Noodle, for some reason I couldn't say that, but Neddy the Noodle was, you know, going to leave the game unless they did this, and he sort of has to some extent. There have been a lot of issues in the ARK community to do with this Nitrado issue. It was the same with Snail Games, like banning people on PvP servers or whatnot in ASA as well. That was completely unacceptable. There's just been some not very nice things coming from Nitrado, and then also they got rid of their whole Spanish audience as well. So I don't know if it's to do with money issues, but most likely it is. I still think it is unacceptable though. And finally, my last point is the characters and UI, and I don't know what it is for me, but I really don't like the ARK characters in ARK Survival Ascended. Again, it's a little nag to end on, but the characters just look a little bit goofy and cartoonish for me compared to the characters that you'd see in Survival Evolved. I think they would have transferred over a lot better. Again, leave your thoughts on this, because after all, these are my opinions and not yours. Also, I think the UI in ASE is just better. I think there's just more clarity based on the specimen implant. Not really quite a fan of it as much in ASA, but there isn't too much difference. It is definitely little nags after little nags. But yep, that is my last point, and that does wrap up my little ranty rant of the 5 things that I think ASA could have done better, and, you know, maybe I would have still been playing the game if it kept this, but I probably will go back to it within the coming months or years even. But that is all I have to say for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, leave your opinions because I want to know what your thoughts are, but do keep it respectful, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye. And give it up for our patrons, Ekaterina Puchkova and Karina Thorne, Dominic Maciejewski, sorry about that name, and everyone else that's on this list. All the people I've mentioned are paid members, and if you feel like that's something you want a shout out at the end of the video, go join the Patreon or become a paid YouTube member.